My name is James Holloway. I'm 38 years old. I don't drink. I don't raise my voice. I've been a member of Grace Community Church for 16 years. I married Lillian 8 years ago. She started volunteering at the church 3 months after the wedding. Children's ministry at first, then hospitality. Eventually, she ran the entire outreach team. People said we were the ideal couple. They were half right. The lights dimmed after the final hymn. The sanctuary was full, every pew taken. A decade of familiar faces, all turned toward the pulpit. The choir sat stiff in their robes. A floral arrangement flanked the altar. A large screen overhead displayed 10 years of grace, honoring Pastor Thomas and Sister Lillian. I was standing in the back. No fanfare, no announcement. I wasn't listed in the program. Pastor Thomas raised both hands gently, his usual sign of modest leadership. The congregation smiled, clapped. My wife stood beside him, dressed in soft blue, her hair pinned with delicate care. She bowed her head like someone who'd spent years perfecting the performance of humility. They stood shoulder to shoulder, pillars of the church. I stepped into the center aisle. No music, no microphone. Just quiet leather soles crossing polished tile. A few people turned, some whispered my name. A woman near the front row smiled, thinking I was part of the celebration. I didn't smile back. My left hand held a folder. Manila, unlabeled. I stopped a few feet in front of the altar, on the ground level. I didn't step up. I didn't ask for permission. The music director stood. Brother James is... I'd like to read something, I said, calm, even. Since we're honoring truth today, I opened the folder. Wish I could call you Daddy without it being a sin. Some people laughed nervously. Others didn't react at all, just stared. I read another. You look so fine today. I wanted to pull you behind the choir room and make you break your vows. Gasps this time. No confusion now. A man turned to his wife, whispering something with urgency. The third line landed differently. I told James I was going to Bible study. I came to your office instead. Best 2 hours of my week. Someone stood and walked out. A woman in the second pew dropped her program. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain how I got the emails. I didn't mention whose account she used or how often, just her words, clear and bare. I turned to Pastor Thomas. He hadn't moved. His expression looked borrowed, somewhere between pastoral concern and disbelief. But he didn't speak. My wife didn't move either. No shame, no denial, just stillness. I'd seen that look before. She was calculating the damage. I folded the last page. No rumors today, I said. Just her words and his silence. Then I dropped the folder. The pages scattered across the floor, plain white paper against dark tile. Some landed under the altar, some near the choir's feet. No one bent to pick them up. I turned, walked back down the center aisle. Same pace, no rush. No one followed me. No one tried to stop me. Behind me, the room stayed silent. No final prayer, no applause. Just paper, still air, and the weight of something real. I didn't look back. Lillian and I met through church. I wasn't looking for anything at the time. I'd just finished a 10-year contract with the Department of Transportation. Long weeks, longer weekends. I showed up at Grace Community mostly to feel quiet. It was a clean building, neutral walls, predictable people, and she was on the welcome team. Lillian knew how to smile like she'd memorized it. She made everyone feel like the first name on the list. She'd hand out bulletins, adjust the flowers on the altar, then sit exactly 4 rows back from the front. I noticed she never took communion on the first pass. Always waited. Said she didn't like drawing attention. We dated for 6 months before I proposed. Married 5 months after that. It was simple. Ceremony in the chapel. No dancing. Light refreshments in the courtyard. She wore her mother's veil, pinned with the same ivory comb she used every Sunday. She didn't cry that day, just held my hand like it anchored her. At home, things were steady. Lillian liked tidy spaces and early mornings. She ironed pillowcases, bought matching dishcloths, labeled the spices. I'd come home to candles already lit. Nothing dramatic, just practiced. Everything in her life felt like it had been edited twice. The changes came slow. It started with small shifts. She'd stay after service a little longer. Start mentioning meetings I wasn't invited to. Events that didn't make the bulletin. Then came the silences. Not tension, just the absence of warmth. Her answers became shorter. She started deflecting eye contact, said I asked too many questions. "I'm just tired," she'd say. Or, "You wouldn't understand. It's spiritual." She spent more time at the church than at home. There were always new projects, fundraisers, youth mentorship, seasonal decoration. At one point, she was overseeing 5 ministry teams. I never stood in the way. When she asked if she could take evening shifts to help prepare outreach packets, I said yes. When she started attending early morning prayer with Pastor Thomas on Wednesdays, I said nothing. I thought this was what support looked like. Pastor Thomas was 10 years older than us, married, 2 daughters in college. He gave long sermons but short answers in person, never raised his voice. People called him wise. I never disliked him. I just never trusted how clean he always looked. Pressed collars, warm smiles, soft language. He and Lillian started co-leading ministry nights, then holiday events, then travel planning for missions. They texted often. She said it was logistics. She changed her phone passcode, said there'd been a security issue with spam. I didn't press it. I remember one night she came home past midnight, said she was helping organize a last-minute baptism service. I asked if anyone had photos. She went quiet for 5 seconds too long. That was the first time I felt the fracture. After that, I started watching, not invading, just noticing. There were inconsistencies, the kind you don't notice unless you stop assuming the best. She once claimed she was hosting a women's Bible study at the parsonage. I drove by. The lights were off. She said she was mentoring teens on Thursday nights. I checked the youth ministry page. No mention of her involvement. Still, I said nothing. I didn't want to be the husband who didn't trust his wife, especially not in a church community where questioning a leader's spouse meant you were either jealous or sinful. The final shift came the night she forgot to log out of the church's shared Google account on our laptop. I was printing a work document. Her email was open, not her personal inbox, just the ministry address, the one used for announcements, planning, and coordination. Except what I found wasn't coordination. It was letters. Dozens. Going back over 6 months. Most were late-night messages. Some were harmless, others weren't. I clicked one. "You made me feel seen tonight. I hate how right this feels." Another. "I love that we don't have to explain ourselves, that we just know." They signed off with initials. They never used full names, but it didn't matter. The rhythm was unmistakable. The tone, the time of night, the little shared jokes about how we could burn in hell together if we're not careful. Some had photo attachments, nothing graphic, just private. A wrist touching a shoulder, a mirror selfie with the reflection of his arm just barely out of frame. I closed the laptop without logging out, sat back in the chair, didn't speak, didn't breathe loud. I let the weight sit. I thought about printing everything right then, thought about confronting her in the kitchen, thought about sending the emails to the church board, but I didn't want to fight. I wanted a record, and I wanted silence loud enough to haunt them. So I copied the entire thread, page by page, no file names, no formatting, just clean transcripts, her words, his answers. Then I waited. I didn't ask her about the emails. I didn't change the way I looked at her. I didn't raise my voice, slam doors, or stay out late. I made the coffee every morning like I always had. I folded her cardigans when they came out of the dryer. I let her leave the house without a single question because she already thought she'd won. The messages were too practiced to be new. The rhythm of their conversations was rehearsed. The way she referred to him in her writing, T or our shepherd or my peace, that only happens after repetition. I had no idea how long it had been going on, but I knew it wasn't a slip. They were careful. They never mentioned the church name, never used full locations. They spoke in metaphors, inside jokes, spiritual double meanings. He once wrote, "Your presence this morning was more nourishing than any communion." She replied, "We'll never hunger again then." It would have made me laugh if it hadn't come from her. She was good at this. Not just the hiding, but the balancing act. Every Sunday she stood next to me and held hands during prayer, greeted guests, took notes during sermons. She even started inviting more people to the Wednesday sessions. The same ones I now knew ended with her staying behind to help clean. I started documenting, not through a lawyer, not through any formal channel. Just clean, simple records. I printed the messages, dated each one, labeled them by time of day, removed any pages that could be dismissed as vague. I only kept what was clear. I wasn't building a case for court. I was building a moment. One afternoon, she left her phone on the kitchen table. I wasn't looking for anything. I'd already found enough. But it vibrated once. Then again, same sender. T. I opened the thread, quietly. He'd sent her a passage from Song of Solomon. She'd replied with a photo, her feet on his office desk, shoes off, a paper coffee cup beside them, the church's logo clearly printed on the sleeve. She texted, "Your favorite view." I set the phone back exactly where it was. Didn't speak, didn't change my breath. That night she told me she was exhausted and needed a long bath. I nodded, let her go upstairs. Then I pulled the anniversary program from the mail basket. Grace Community's 10-year anniversary, full weekend of events, a celebration service, a dinner banquet, a recognition ceremony for key leaders and long-term volunteers. Pastor Thomas and Lillian were scheduled to receive a special honor for spiritual excellence and selfless service. That was it. That was the moment. No confrontation in the kitchen, no angry email, no threat of exposure, just a quiet plan. The goal wasn't to humiliate her, it was to remove her performance. I kept to myself over the next few weeks, acted agreeable, let her think I was busy with work. When she asked if I'd be attending the ceremony, I nodded and told her I'd RSVP. She told me she was nervous about the spotlight, said she didn't feel worthy. She smiled when she said it, but her eyes flicked away like they always did when she lied. I reached out to someone I trusted in the sound booth, Jason. We weren't close, but he wasn't naive. I told him I'd need control of the screen at the ceremony, just for 5 minutes. He asked if something was wrong. I said, no. I'm just ready for people to hear her ministry for real. He didn't ask again. I put together the folder slowly, stripped away anything that could be explained away. Just the messages, the clear ones. I removed the photos, removed the suggestive quotes. I didn't want them accused of being misunderstood. I only kept her own written proof. By the end of the month, I had 17 pages, all printed in the same font. No headers, no digital tags, just black ink on white paper. I didn't speak to her differently. I let her sleep beside me. I let her sing on Sunday. I let her rehearse the words she thought she'd say when they handed her that plaque. I even helped her pick the blouse she wore that day. Light blue, soft fabric, long sleeves. She asked if it looked respectful enough. I said it looked exactly like her. The ceremony was scheduled for Sunday at 4 p.m. They chose that hour so people would come back after the regular morning service, dressed better, more awake. The program listed food, speeches, a slideshow, then a surprise shared testimony from two honorees chosen by the board. Everyone knew who that would be. The sanctuary was cleaned the day before, fresh flowers, polished pews, a red runner down the center aisle. On Sunday morning, Lillian left early, said she needed extra time to help Pastor Thomas prepare. I nodded from the table, sipping my coffee. She touched my shoulder on her way out. That was her version of affection, tactical, brief. She wore perfume that morning. She hadn't in weeks. After she left, I pulled the folder from my desk drawer. I didn't carry a bag, just the papers, clipped and sealed. 17 pages, black and white, words only. Nothing could be twisted. Nothing could be mistaken for anything else. I arrived just before 3:45, sat in the back, second row from the doors. I watched the room fill. Choir members, deacons, visiting pastors, even the mayor's assistant. Everyone wore their best. Ushers passed out programs printed in gold and navy. The front read, 10 Years of Faith, a celebration of endurance. The slideshow started right on time. Photos of mission trips, baptisms, holiday services. Pastor Thomas appeared often. Lillian too, always near him, always smiling. The final photo faded into a blank screen. Applause. Then came the ceremony. The assistant pastor stepped up first. Today we honor two servants of God who have exemplified grace, consistency, and, above all, moral integrity. He motioned to the side aisle. They entered together. Lillian walked in with a controlled smile. Pastor Thomas followed slightly behind, his robe pressed, hands folded neatly in front. The applause was loud, sustained. A few stood. Some wiped tears. They stepped onto the stage. Lillian took the microphone first. "I don't feel worthy," she said, just above a whisper. "But I feel obedient." She turned toward Pastor Thomas with a small nod. Practiced, rehearsed. He took the mic next. "Service is its own reward," he said. "But love for our people and love for those who serve beside us. That's the real blessing." He placed his hand gently on Lillian's shoulder. That was my cue. I stood from the back. I didn't walk quickly. I didn't ask permission. I didn't look for eye contact. I reached the front row and stopped just below the stage. The assistant pastor looked at me. I didn't acknowledge him. I turned to the crowd. "I was told this would be a ceremony of testimony," I said, "so I brought mine." I opened the folder, held up the first page. "You touched me when you prayed over me, and I haven't stopped shaking since." Murmurs. One sharp inhale. A paper program dropped to the floor. Second page. "James thinks I'm in fasting and prayer. I'm not. I'm in your office." The assistant pastor tried to move forward. I raised one finger. Not a warning, just a delay. I stepped closer to the stage, looked up. "I kept the emails," I said, "all 17. Then I turned slightly, nodded toward the sound booth. Jason was already ready. The screen above the altar lit up. White background, one black sentence. "You make me forget heaven." Then another. "We'll just keep calling it fellowship." I didn't say another word. I didn't raise my voice. I let their own messages fill the room. The crowd was silent. One of the choir members sat down slowly, face blank. A deacon closed his eyes like he was praying or bracing for impact. Lillian froze. She didn't grab the mic. She didn't protest. She looked at the screen, then at me, then at her feet. Pastor Thomas gripped the edge of the podium. His knuckles turned pale. I dropped the folder. The pages spilled onto the steps. No one moved to pick them up. I turned, walked back down the aisle, past the rows of stunned faces. Some turned away. Others stared directly at me like they weren't sure what they were seeing. No one followed. No one spoke. Behind me, the screen still glowed. The last quote stayed up longer than the rest. If this is sin, then I've never felt closer to salvation. I didn't rush my exit. I walked through the side doors and into the hallway, lined with church office photos. Quiet hallway, no music, no movement. The ceremony hadn't officially ended, but it wouldn't resume. I knew that before I even reached the end of the hall. Outside, the parking lot was still mostly full. No one had followed me out. I didn't look back. I sat on the stone bench near the east entrance. A family with two small children walked past me on their way in, arriving late. The father smiled awkwardly, not knowing what he was walking into. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Then I heard the doors. First one, then another. The muffled scrape of dress shoes, then hurried steps, whispers. Two women exited with stunned faces, looking as if they had just left a funeral. One of them held the program like a shield against her chest. Then came the board members, 3 of them in a tight line. None said a word. The assistant pastor followed, still holding the mic in one hand like he'd forgotten to put it down. Then I saw her. Lillian emerged slowly, alone. She walked to the edge of the stairs, paused, and looked over the lot like she was waiting for a ride that wasn't coming. Her hair had come slightly loose at the side. One earring was missing. Her blouse was wrinkled now, not from movement, but from the way she'd been standing. Tight, clenched, holding herself together. I didn't speak. She saw me. She didn't approach. She walked down the steps, crossed the lot, and got into her car without looking back. Then the pastor came out. Pastor Thomas didn't look at me at first. He just scanned the horizon as if hoping for an explanation that would restore something. He walked toward the lot slowly. No one followed him. None of the deacons offered to help him down the steps. He didn't look at his phone. He didn't speak to anyone. His car was parked farther out, near the gravel patch where overflow guests usually stayed. As he walked by me, he slowed. I didn't move. He turned just slightly and said, "You didn't have to do it that way." I looked up. "Neither did you." He paused, then kept walking. No threats, no yelling. Just truth returned to its source. I stayed until most of the lot had cleared. The janitorial crew was already dragging bins toward the kitchen hall. Someone had unplugged the projection screen. The assistant pastor walked past once more. Didn't meet my eyes, just nodded like a man who'd seen the inside of a collapsing building. Before I left, I walked back inside. The sanctuary was half lit. Empty now. I picked up one page from the floor, her message from March. "Sometimes I wish he'd catch us. Then I'd stop having to pretend." I folded it once and slid it into my pocket. Not for revenge, just for the record. I didn't go home that night. I checked into a hotel off the highway. No reservation, no luggage. Just walked in, handed over my ID, and asked for the quietest room on the second floor. Paid in cash, no conversation. The TV stayed off. I didn't touch the bedspread. I sat in the chair by the window, lights dimmed, door bolted. The folder was gone, but I remembered every line. At 11:32 p.m., my phone lit up. One missed call, Lillian, no voicemail. She called again at midnight, then once more at 2:17. After that, she stopped. I let it ring every time. Let the screen fade on its own. I wasn't interested in her explanations. I'd already heard enough of her words. I stayed at the hotel for 2 nights, left before checkout. When I returned home, the house was quiet. Her car wasn't there. Her keys were gone from the hook. On the kitchen counter, she'd left a handwritten note. "James, I know you hate mess. I'll come back for the rest later. Please don't throw away my books. They matter to me. Lillian." There was no apology, no acknowledgement, just logistics. I walked through the house. Everything was in place. The dining room centerpiece, the laundry folded in the basket. Even the guest room was staged with the scented candles she liked. I opened the drawers. She'd taken her jewelry, her journals, her keepsake box from her mother, but she left our wedding photo in the hallway. I didn't touch it. The next morning, I called the board chairman, left a message. I won't be attending further services. I've attached everything I found in a sealed envelope. I'm not asking for a meeting. I don't need an apology. I just want it on record. They responded 4 days later. The pastor was placed on indefinite leave. No public explanation, no statement. They announced he was taking a sabbatical for rest and restoration. I wasn't surprised. Grace Community didn't handle shame well. Lillian never came back for her books. 2 weeks passed, then a third. I boxed them quietly, labeled them with her name, set them in the garage. One afternoon, I left the garage door open. She drove up, didn't get out. I carried the boxes to her trunk. She popped it open from the driver's seat. Never spoke, never made eye contact. When I placed the last box in, she muttered one sentence. You ruined everything. I shut the trunk. Not hard, not soft, just once. Number I just refused to keep pretending. She drove away. That was the last time I saw her. I filed for divorce without attorneys. I didn't want alimony, didn't want to fight over furniture or property. I offered clean terms, split assets, quiet signatures. She delayed signing for a month, hoping I'd reopen contact. I didn't. Eventually, the documents came back signed. I checked the envelope. Her handwriting was rushed, but legible. 6 years and 11 months. That's how long we were married. She didn't reach out again. People say forgiveness brings peace. I disagree. What brought me peace was clarity. Truth said plainly. No shouting, no second chances. Just the facts, delivered in the room where the lie lived. I never returned to Grace Community. I didn't need to. They sent out a vague statement a month later. Said Pastor Thomas had accepted a new opportunity. No mention of what happened. No acknowledgement of what he cost that congregation. Lillian never reached out again. She didn't file a response. Didn't challenge the divorce. She moved quietly like someone who knows she's out of excuses. I didn't go looking for closure. I didn't need an apology to feel finished. I still keep the emails, sealed in a folder, not to revisit, not for revenge, just because truth deserves a record. I joined a different church. They don't ask about my past. I don't offer it. When people ask how I moved on, I tell them the truth. I didn't move on. I cut the rope, and I walked away.